Oh boy, here we go again. So, 3 days ago, let's see, today's Monday, so Sunday, Saturday, Friday, this account right up here, circled in red, decided to start following me. And so I looked at the account, everything seemed fairly normal-ish, and I decided I would follow back. And I did. So let's jump on with this. So this is the account. Seems fairly normal. It's relatively new, following 350 people, only has 44 followers. That's a very weird ratio. Only 9 posts, indicating veteran/vegetarian/Black African descent. I don't know why there's a dot there, but whatever. So, okay, cool, whatever. I'll take a look at it. And so I followed the account, as you said. And then after 3 days of not really engaging with one another, I get the following message. I get hi with a waving emoji. I respond with hi. Hey, yeah, how are you? I say, I'm good. How are you? I'm very much good and alive today. Smiley face emoji. Thanks for asking. I'm Flores by name. Nice to meet you, Flores. Thank you, dear. Where are you from? I don't like to give my information out to just anybody, but hey, I let her know that I'm from Denmark. A country I've never been to, by the way. I just figured, hey, I can play with this. Because the information on my actual account doesn't say where I'm from. It just says, whatever. Anyway, so I say I'm from Denmark. And already you can tell there's some peculiarities here because the verbiage is really kind of weird. The grammar is just all over the place. So she responds with, oh, nice. I was there sometime earlier last year. Came for a friend's wedding ceremony. I said, oh. There's some grammar issues on my part, just because I have fat thumbs. But I said, oh, which part of Denmark? Yeah, somewhere in Odense. You know Odense? My response is, I've never been there. I'm originally from Viborg. Oh, nice. My friend and her family lives there. Okay. It's nice to meet you once again. What may I call you? So I went with something that starts with the same first initial that I have. So I went with Gunnar. I said, you may call me Gunnar. And so this is the initial start of this interaction that I have with her. I'm going to be teeny tiny here over in the corner, but she says, Gunnar, nice name you got there. I respond in Danish with tak, which means thank you. She says, I'm sorry the way I might have intruded into your privacy, my bad. Just felt like you are attractive and in some way look familiar, like a longtime friend of mine. It's very interesting. Going right for the compliment. And I said, how did you know this friend of yours? LOL, we both served in the army together. She's been my friend since at teen. She got married to this man from Denmark, though her husband worked for PCL in California, my state. Okay, cool. This is very confusing because, and I clarify this in the next block of messages. So I respond with, so I, a man, remind you of your female friend. And she responds with, I knew when they started dating, LOL. Funny, but yeah. Completely non sequitur, but okay. And then she finally responds to my actual concern. She says, no, not really, haha. You misunderstand me, or maybe I misunderstood you. The friend you're asking me off? The one you look familiar to, or you mean the she I came for her wedding? And I said, you said I look familiar like your longtime friend. I asked you about this friend, and you mentioned the woman who got married in Denmark. I'm trying to get some clarification on this, and apparently there's a mistranslation here somewhere. She responds to my clarification with, oh, I misunderstood your question. My bad. I said, sometimes it is difficult for me to understand. English is not my first language. It is, but I'm trying to play off the whole Danish thing. And she says, so about the friend you asking, his just a friend I met online some time ago. We got along at a time I lost contact and communication with him. Then she says, oh, I understand everyone is, she plays it off and says that she could teach me sometime. Sorry, I do apologize. Sometimes it's hard for me to see some of the messages because I have to hold my finger on the button, and it covers part of her messages. But you can see the script down there. I'm trying to give the general sense of this and reading it verbatim as much as I possibly can. So anyway, moving forward. So I change the subject and I say, so you were in the army. And then I added, I served in the Danish army. I really haven't. I have never served in the military. And I don't mean any disrespect to anybody who has actually served in the armed forces. I have a lot of respect for you guys. But again, I'm playing off this character because if I claim that I'm a Danish citizen, I need to play the part. Because in truth, the Danish citizens, actually men especially, at age 18 are required to serve for at least 11 months. 8 to 11 months, something like that. And it's only been as of July of this year that they started requiring women to do so as well for, equal rights, equal fights, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, so she says, yes, I still am. Actually, on a mission in Yemen. And then she says, wow, that's impressive in response to my Danish army service time. Now, this is where it gets weird. So in response to her statement about being in Yemen, I said, I thought you were a veteran according to your picture. And I'll show the picture in just a moment. And then I asked the question, should you be telling me where you're deployed? And then she responds to I respond to her statement about my service being impressive. I said, all Danish men are required to serve for 11 months when we turn 18. She asked me what branch or unit I was, which that was actually a pretty smart question on her part. I said, I served in the Danish army. General infantry. And so this is where it gets weird because I did a little bit of Google searching and it's super bizarre because I didn't just search on Google. I actually looked at the profile that was here in front of me. I'll just show you. So this is the picture in question. This was posted on November 9th of this year. It says, I signed up for this, not an easy task, but thanks to Almighty. Bad grammar again. And then it has the hashtag U.S. Army Veteran. Can anybody tell me what's wrong with this picture? I'll give you a couple seconds. The thing is, if you look at the indication on her left shoulder, it says U.S. Air Force. Not U.S. Army, U.S. Air Force. The certificate has the U.S. Air Force logo. She's going from being a senior airman to a staff sergeant, which staff sergeant is an actual rank in the U.S. Air Force. I believe it's an E6. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But that is not someone who is serving in the Army. That is someone who is serving in the Air Force. So already, this is not accurate. This is false. This is fraudulent. This is a scam. So then she makes this statement about being the only person that she's ever been open to or outspoken to here on the internet. On internet, not the internet. And then she responds to the whole thing about my question about the picture. She says, well, yeah, I'm a veteran also. And does it matter if telling you where I am deployed? I just felt like I'm safe with you. So I responded with, it does not bother me. I hope you don't get in trouble with your superiors. And this is where she says the besides and all that. And she does respond to this. So this is her response saying that everything is on her device. It's all hidden. She's got access to the logins. No one else can see anything. She asks about my marital status and makes some assumption that I am. I say that I'm not, and I ask about rank in the military. You can see it right there. What's weird about this is the fact that, as far as I'm aware, most people I've talked to who are active duty military, when they are deployed, they're not supposed to have access to their personal devices. If they do, it's on a very, 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 very limited basis. Correct me if I'm wrong. So if you're active duty military, please, by all means, in the comments, let me know if I'm wrong. I will make the corrections as necessary. But as far as I'm concerned, having your device like that and sharing where you are seems like a bit of a security breach. Like, if we're not supposed to have boots on the ground in Yemen, and we've got this kind of activity, it feels like she might be breaching security here. I don't know. Okay, and so this is the last block of messaging. She explained that she was a staff sergeant. And she made some comment about how she was really surprised that a handsome, good-looking man like me wasn't married. And I said, I never said I didn't get married. I'm just not married now, which is true. I did get married at one point. I'm not married now. She said, yeah, I understand very well. He. You have kids? I said, no, which is a lie. I have a kid. Well, technically, it's half true. I said, I don't have kids. I don't have plural. Anyway, she's like, that's all right. So you served in the Army for just 11 months in your country, still serving? And I said, no, I fulfilled my requirements. And that's what the conversation kind of tapered off. She just went silent after that. And I'm not sure if she caught wise to the fact that I was, asking all these pressing questions, but there you go. So a few things stand out. First of all, the it just seems really kind of out there. It doesn't match up with the name completely. The ratio of following to followers is incredibly substantial. The lack of posts in such a short amount of time is really, really kind of telling. Because the account's only been active since early November, since November 6th, I believe. And the last post was from November 15th, so just a week and a half ago. And that's 9 posts in 9 days is just kind of weird. The description doesn't really say much. It's kind of a few buzzwords here. But what really, really catches me is the fact that one photo I showed of the woman in uniform, the face kind of matches up. I'm assuming it matches up as the same person, but the story behind the service does not. Furthermore, what really bothered me is as I was looking at some of the other photos on this profile, one of the posts was supposed to be like a Halloween post, and that was posted on like November 9th November 12th. And the reason why I remember that is because it was the middle of the week. That was a Wednesday. And they were talking about, having a fun weekend. I'm sorry, who has a fun weekend on a Wednesday? Unless you're like the folks from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Come on. Middle of the week, people are working, they're tired, and they're just waiting for Friday. That being said, again, this is one of those things where it's like you need to protect yourself. Make sure that you're paying attention to the accounts, who they're following, what they're following, any links that they might have that seem a little fishy or suspicious. And then the ads are usually a good sign. And like if this is someone that you've never interacted with and they just start interacting with you and chatting you up in your DMs without any provocation, that's a little weird.